Back in World War I, and in fact just 100 years ago in April, there was an event, a campaign called the Gillipoli Campaign during World War I. Very bloody campaign. Not a lot of people have heard about it. But back in 1999, Colleen Nelson from KEZI did a story on a gentleman from West Eugene who was going back and tracing the descendants of this bloody campaign. We're bringing it back thanks to an arrangement we have with the University of Oregon Archives Department. So take a look at this video.
Pat Gillipoli is an ordinary guy with an extraordinary hobby. He spends countless hours matching names and stories to the men who died in a battle that America never fought in. But Pat's work has had a major impact on families all over the world. Here's the final part of our series, Remembering the Century. It was called the Great War. It was here in the trenches that the fatal consequences of militarism, national pride, and misguided tactics were tragically played out.
It was a completely senseless war, and Gallipoli seems to epitomize the senselessness of it all.
In 1915, on the Gallipoli Peninsula in western Turkey, soldiers from Great Britain, Australia, and New Zealand fought Turkish soldiers for almost 9 months.
There was just no hope. They were sent into a meat grinder.
By year's end, the Allies had evacuated. 42,000 died, victims of small arms fire, artillery, and dysentery. The huge losses are still felt deeply in Australia and were the subject of a 1979 film directed by Peter Ware.
We're getting ready to make an all-out assault on Johnny Turk, and we know we're going to give a good account of ourselves and our country. Everyone is terribly excited. There's a feeling that we're all involved in an adventure that's somehow larger than life.
It was that movie that changed Patrick Gillipoli's life.
Young man who was killed while he was making tea. Rather, he was wounded in the head while he was making tea. This is the letter that was sent by his friend.
It inspired him to try and tell the stories of each and every soldier who died at Gallipoli.
His brother was killed at Gallipoli too.
For the past 11 years, he has immersed himself in research on the battle and is sorting through the life stories of those long dead.
And these were all real people. And you hear the stories about the people, what they were really like, and that they weren't soldiers per se. They were just guys like, you know, anybody else should meet. They had real jobs. Most of them were never even able to marry. They never got to experience most of the things we get to experience.
His research has even helped change history.
In the past 5 years, I've managed to prove 12 Gallipoli deaths and 2 burials to the British government. I have 3 more under consideration. I know they were killed, but if they admit that they were killed, then they have to change memorials.
Pat also has an extensive collection of battlefield artifacts.
Oh yeah, this is the piece that always gets me. That's what's left of a British soldier. That's his boot. You can't get any closer to history than to actually hold it in your hand. And to own things that were held by men who served, whether they came back or not, is, for me, it's very moving. Where is she? Where is she?
Pat shares what he has learned with descendants and relatives of lost loved ones who've died. For them, it sometimes can be a powerful revelation.
This is a milestone for me, Pat, remember? I wanted to know about my grandfather's war. I found my grandfather, Pat. What happened in the end? I'll have to stop crying. Can't stop crying. Thank you, Pat. P.S. I'll write later when I've got a grip.
Through these contacts, he has received documents, photographs, and letters. Often it's the letters that bring the dead back to life.
This was written by a man named Frank Bat, and we believe it was a suicide note because he just found out that his wife was having an affair. Dear Lily, I now take the pleasure in writing to you in the eve of my end. And I hope you will forgive me, as you know I had a hard time to think it over, and I came to think this was the only way out and set you free. I hope you will have a better time in future. I am sorry it has come to an end like this. All I have in the event of my death goes to you, and so you will not be too bad off. So say goodbye to all, and God bless you and Maud. From your broken-hearted husband, Frank Bat. He was killed the next morning. I think what we should take from Gallipoli, from the First World War, and from the wars of this century in general, are that our people are much too valuable to be wasted. I also like to think that if these people still exist in any place, that they look down with me with a little bit of fondness, that somebody down here remembers them.
Now, since our interview with Pat, he has proved another soldier's death to the English government. So now, almost a century later, that soldier will finally get some kind of a memorial, which will help provide closure to his family. Rick, Lisa, back to you.
Thanks, Colleen. Most